Legalism, or legalistic assault, is the authoritarian iteration of spiritual abuse. Vondervan and Johnson define it as a form of religious perfectionism that focuses on careful performance and avoids certain behaviors. It teaches people to gain a sense of spiritual acceptance it teaches people to work to gain a sense of spiritual acceptance instead of accepting it as a gift on the basis of Christ. In legalistic systems, emphasis is placed on religious behavior rather than relational behavior. Relational behaviors, they're activities that facilitate a degree of interaction with God, that facilitate a degree of interaction with Him and a relationship as defined by Him. While relational activities do require discipline and obedience, the point of the behavior is to help the individual relate better with God. It's a simple example that you may have encountered in your childhood when a father places a young child on the top bunk of a bunk bed and asks the child to jump off the bed into the arms of the father. The point is not just to get the child to jump off the bed, but it is a relational trust-building exercise between the child and the father. So within Christianity, there are relational activities that take place to help you get a better relationship with God, to help you understand Him better. Those relational activities are supposed to be the focus of Christian living, but a legalistic system emphasizes religious behaviors instead of relational behaviors. Religious behaviors are rituals, precepts, and practices that are taken to be the foundation of maintaining an acceptable standing with God. The successful execution and compliance of these benchmarks are, of course, evaluated by the leadership of the community, thus leaving an individual's standing with God entirely subject to the judgment of some other man. They believe that they place a premium on discipleship. Legalistic systems think that they're very, very strong on discipleship when really they're much more interested in compliance. Being a disciple is an organic relationship and it's an organic process. But legalists are looking for near instantaneous, unquestioning obedience. They fear making Christian living too easy. And as Jesus says in Matthew, the 23rd chapter and the 4th verse, they crush people with unbearable religious demands and never lift a finger to ease that burden. Consider the confrontation between Jesus and the Pharisees in Matthew 15. This is the New Living Translation, and I jump around a little bit just for brevity's sake. But some of the Pharisees and teachers of the religious law arrived in Jerusalem to see Jesus. They asked him, "Why do your disciples disobey our age-old tradition? For they ignore tradition of ceremonial washing of hands before they eat." Then Jesus called to the crowd to come and hear. "Listen," he said, "and try to understand. It's not what goes in your mouth that defiles you. You are defiled by the words that come out of your mouth." "Don't you understand?" asked Jesus. "Anything you eat passes through the stomach and makes its way to the sewer. But the words you speak come from the heart, and that's what defiles you. From the heart comes evil thoughts, murder, adultery, all sexual immorality, theft, lying, and slander. These are the things that defile you. Eating with unwashed hands will never defile you." Failure by Jesus' disciples to comply with the Pharisaical traditions put them in danger of being declared defiled, which is a serious cultural accusation with grave social consequence. In other words, the Pharisees had a tradition that there needed to be a ceremonial washing of hands before they ate, and anybody that did not fulfill that could be declared unclean or defiled. And to them, it wasn't just you have the cooties, but you become a social outcast. It wasn't just you ate something and now you got bacteria. It wasn't sanitary. It wasn't biological. It was this ceremonial purification makes you pure, and if you eat with impure hands, then your impurity is going to be ingested, making you impure, making you less holy than the Pharisees were. And so that was the hang-up, that they were trying to discredit the disciples because they didn't behave according to the traditional standards that had been set. Christ's response was to turn the conversation to internal reality rather than superficial performance of tradition. Legalistic systems reject any truths that transfer the mechanism of divine relationship from the establishment. The primary conflict faced by the apostles in the Bible was to maintain the liberty of relationship afforded them by Christ in the face of an onslaught of resistance by legalistic factions whose presumed power was being destroyed. And they didn't like the fact that suddenly you didn't have to go through them to be declared okay with God. Prolonged exposure to legalistic environments creates a religious system dependence where the approval of the community or the religious leaders is equated with that of God.